not only can spinners be fished close to the surface or in the middle of the water column, but they're also very, very effective right down close to the bottom. And the easiest way to do that and kind of know where your bait's running in relationship to the bottom, just use what's called a bottom bouncer. And bottom bouncers are very, very simple tools. They're simply L-shaped pieces of wire with a weight on them, a long arm on the bottom that's going to kind of tap the bottom. On the end, a good quality ball bearing tool we're going to attach our spinner to. But a couple of things about picking the right bottom bouncer that make a big difference in how you're going to fish it. Two styles of bottom bouncers are basically two styles of how we attach the line. The first one is, my preferred way most times, is a closed loop bouncer. This is my favorite because what I can do is I can attach that crankbait snap we showed you in the start of the DVD, which you want to put on the end of your line. You can attach that crankbait snap right here. Sometimes even a snap swivel if you're going to fish fairly quick. But most of the times a crankbait snap, we can attach it right here. We can change the weight of the bouncer very quickly, not have to retie. We don't have to worry about a knot on this great big heavy wire and the heavy loop. This is my favorite bouncer day in and day out. Put a crankbait snap on here, it fishes pretty well. The other style is what we call an R bend. You can see it kind of makes a shape of an R. And this is a bouncer that I only use. I don't use it when I'm trolling, other than anytime I'm going to hold a rod in my hand. I don't use it behind boards. I'm going to put a bouncer behind a planer board, or I'm just going to put a bouncer in a rod holder. I use the closed loop. If I'm going to hold a bottom bouncer in my hand, I'm actually going to pump the rod as I'm moving forward, I will use an R bend bouncer. It gives me a little better contact with the bottom. It's not broken up by that crankbait snap and that knot. I can feel exactly what's happening on the bottom with that bottom bouncer. But the only time I use this style bouncer is if I got a rod in my hand and I'm going to pump it. Anytime a rod's in a rod holder with a bouncer on it, or a bouncer behind a planer board, I use that closed loop bend. Now, a little talk about weight of the bottom bouncer. A lot of people think there's some general rules: 1 ounce in 10 feet of water, 2 ounce in 20 feet of water, 3 ounce in 30 feet of water. Not a bad rule to follow, but here's what I do. I want to pick the weight of my bouncer. First, what I want to do is set the speed of my boat. How fast do I need to go to catch these fish? Then what I do is I adjust the weight of my bouncer and pick a bouncer at the speed I'm going that's going to let me keep a 45-degree angle from my bouncer up to the tip of my rod. That 45-degree angle is pretty important. We're going to show you why when we go out on the water and show you how to fish these bouncers. It's important to keep that 45-degree angle so you know how far off the bottom your bouncer is running. So use closed loop or round loop with a crankbait snap if you're going to put a rod with a bottom bouncer in a rod holder behind a planer board. The R bend if you're going to tie direct and actually use this in a rod that you're going to use in your hand and pump it. Bottom bouncers work real good in knowing how far off the bottom your baits are. Let's go out to the water, show you how to set these up and catch a few fish on a bottom bouncer. This is a real simple bottom bouncer. It's just basically an L-shaped arm with a weight on it. We're going to use a 3-ounce weight. We're out here in Lake Erie today. We're trolling some crankbaits and some pods. About 1.2, 1.3, so we're going to use a heavy weight to get down. We're going to be in about 27 to 30 feet of water. Very simple process. We just attach it with a crankbait snap, just like we do our crankbaits. About a 3 to 4 foot leader. We're going to be right close to the bottom. This time there's a lot of perch on the bottom, so we're using green and orange with a gold blade. Very simple process to do. It's important that you realize how far off the bottom your bottom bouncer is, and here's how you do that. We're on big water, so we're going to use our line counter so we can duplicate what we do. Sometimes if we're inland, we'll use a bottom bouncer in our hand and actually hold the rod and kind of pump it. But fishing big water like this, we're just going to set in a rod holder. So what we do is we reel our bottom bouncer up to the tip of the rod, just like we do with the crankbait, zero out the counter, and we just let the bottom bouncer free fall, a little bit of pressure on our thumb. And what we're going to do is we're going to let it down until it hits the bottom one time. And you'll feel a pretty distinct thud when it gets to the bottom. And there it is, it hit the bottom right there. So at 40 feet, we went 30 feet down. Now if I stop there and put in the rod holder right here, water pressure is going to lift that bouncer about 1.5 feet, almost 2 feet off the bottom. But I want to be closer. The fish we're seeing on the graph are right tight to the bottom. So I'm going to hold it about 10 seconds, let water pressure lift it. I'll let some more line out, still keep my thumb on the spool, just keeping tight pressure. There's the bottom the second time. That'll bring it up about 12 to 15 inches off the bottom. That's where we're going to leave it. We're going to do that. Engage the reel. We're at about 45 feet. Now we're just going to put it in a rod holder. For this type of fish, I like cradle rod holders, so the rod will lay parallel to the water line. We'll leave it just like that. When I see the rod tip load up, I got a fish. That simple. You can see some fish on the bottom on the graph. We put that bottom bouncer down there, and it took us about 15 minutes, but we got one. Feels like a good one too. The nice thing about using line counters, that was 47 feet back. I can put this one right back 47 feet. No, it's right where it needs to be, just like fishing a crankbait. 15, Kenny. Laying down like a good fish. See the bouncer? Oh yeah, nice walleye. Not as big as Kenny's, but yeah, you know, those who can't do teach. So hey, obviously he's a good learner.